how whenever the United States helps, it seems to create more bigger enemies. And this is something, as a history buff, I like to point out to other history buffs whenever I get an opportunity.
Free Talk Live.
In Indianapolis, listening to WIBC FM. Hello, Mark.
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Welcome. Doing great.
I just called. I've talked to y'all before.
Okay.
Thanks for the Bitcoin advice, by the way.
You're welcome.
But I spent 7 years in the Marine Corps, and I got to go all over Southeast Asia, and see how, things went in some of the other countries I went to. And the socialism thing, when I was in Russia, was still the USSR. And it's like that's what we have fought against since, my dad was in World War II, and right after World War II was the Cold War. And I don't know if people know it or not, but the Nazis that was the National Socialist Party.
That's right.
And then the Soviets was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic.
Correct.
And I just, the Russians the USSR rather, plan to take over the country without firing a shot through our education system and our youth. And I think they've done a pretty good job.
They've done very, very well. We've actually looked a couple times in the past at Free Talk Live over the last 16 or however many years it's been that we've been doing this now. We've looked at the Communist planks and the Communist Manifesto and kind of matched them up with the status quo in the United States. And what do we get, like 7 out of 10 or something like that,
Yeah,
Mark?
it's pretty high.
Yeah, but they've been implemented here fully.
I'm a history buff, and I don't know. My wife is a teacher, and she's thinks about things about like I do, but they don't teach that stuff in school anymore. They don't teach history at all. And
they teach their version of history.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
The one that lifts up the United States.
Social studies.
Yeah.
Yeah, they changed it to social studies when I was in school. And,
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a history buff, too, and one of the things I find most interesting is the United States' greatest enemies are always people that we recently helped. The Soviet Union was, the United States went in and had troops on the ground in Russia during their red and white Russian Revolution thing that was going on there, and the Bolsheviks never forgave us for that. Big problems after helping. Same with China. China was on our side in World War II. Then Mao comes along, exactly. And it just over and over again, whenever the United States helps, it seems to create more bigger enemies. And this is something, as a history buff, I like to point out to other history buffs whenever I get an opportunity.
Well, now, the Founding Fathers had the right idea, which was to say the U.S. should stay out of world conflicts.
And entangling alliances.
Yeah. And as you pointed out, it makes things worse to take a side.
Exactly. I can understand helping, like the situation in Venezuela right now, as far as with aid and stuff. But I was in Beirut when that was going on, and that was a joke, believe me. And
helping with sandwiches is a lot different than helping by sending in armed men.
Yeah, but when you're helping with sandwiches, it's just feeding one side in a civil war whenever you help, because the other side can never get them.
Well, but all that said, Mark, I don't think the government should be involved in any of that. I think that an individual, if you want to go down there and lend yourself to whatever movement or send money to whichever side that you think is valuable, that you think should win, or send food or whatever, then I think each individual should be able to make those decisions. Because then
I agree.
Then nobody can really easily be targeted. There's no one entity that did a thing. It's thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of individuals who could get behind or not behind somebody or some group.
But the thing that scares me, though, is it's no longer the Democratic Party. To me, it's the Communist Party, is what I see.
Some people
I
are saying that they
propaganda.
think the Democrats are going heavily to the left this year. Is that what you're seeing?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's nothing like it was 5 years ago. It scares me.
It's interesting.
I worry about it. I've got kids, and socialism does not work.
Well, I don't think that there's any. I think that these predictions of a civil war are overblown. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and all this. I do think that we can't live together. I think that people need to make a distinct choice of a place that is best for them, like a physical landmass that has the kind of people that they feel like they're more likely to get along with. So, socialist types ought to move out west to California or, Portland or whatever. The conservative types might want to move to Texas or something like that. The libertarians, the voluntarists, the liberty-loving anarchists ought to move to New Hampshire. And, we should try different things. Have people sort of make a point, deliberate migration towards other people of like mind. I think that's probably what's going to result in the most freedom for the people that want it and the least freedom for the people that don't want it in that case.
Well, I think most people are libertarian without knowing it.
I tend to agree.
I like that viewpoint, and I hope it's true. And I thank you, Mark, for your call tonight. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.
And by libertarian, I mean the sort of the greater, if they were to take the world's smallest political quiz, which you can take at quiz.freetalklive.com, they would come out 80-80 or above. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in that realm, they'd fall in this large it's not a quadrant because there's 5 areas, quadrant mm-hmm. that we call libertarian on the Nolan chart. Not necessarily that they agree with me every issue, every time. And frankly, I don't know what I think. I only believe in science. I believe we need to be able to test these things. But I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to my voice, you are not free to try a different form of government here in the United States.
Nope.
And you have to be free to be free. You can't claim to be free if you're not free. And if you have to pay, income tax and property tax and sales tax and all these other taxes to support one government while you try to create another, it's not going to work. Look, people have tried to create governments all over the United States. And sooner or later, the government rolls tanks in on them.
Dan is on the line listening to WIBC FM in Indianapolis. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
You had a fellow earlier, or just a little bit ago, talk about, or maybe it was you, that every country where a country goes in to try to help ends up with being a big enemy. I think it's intentional. I think our military-industrial complex makes a whole lot of money off of it. That's what I wanted to say.
I don't disagree that it's intentional. Can you tell me how it works? Because I just want a direction to look when I'm digging.
I wish I knew.
Okay. Yeah, you and I are in the same boat, floating around thinking, I think these people are trying to do this, but we don't know how. And I think the soldiers are duped. I think the commanders are duped. I think there's this elite cadre of weapons manufacturers that knows what they're doing, and the rest of us just don't know.
Free Talk Live. Listen live 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern or grab the podcast. It's all at freetalklive.com.